But just wanted to remind you that apart from the pandemic, at the moment, for the last couple of months, we're still experiencing climate emergency. We are entering or entered a recession, so economic downturn. We still have a massive housing crisis. We actually had serious social unrest, and we also had an unprecedented test of online technology as well. So all quite an interesting cocktail there for us to consider, and for us as developers, and for us as placemakers, and for us as designers, and for everybody. And I think all of those things are one way or another interrelated somehow. So, as Katja has pointed out, there is a bit of a tendency, or so the press says, that the current desirable lifestyle shifts from urban living to suburban living. People are scared to use public transport. People find themselves safe in their own car space. There is a bit of a grain of truth or thinking about that. But I'd point out that perhaps that is a little bit of a misconception, that somewhat suburbia or countryside are safer. Yes, urban living has lost its sort of appeal as urban living, because why would I live in the city? Because I want immediate access to all the facilities, the restaurants, the galleries, the theatres, the shops, the everything. All that is shut. This is it. You don't have anything other than streets to walk up and down, or maybe parks if you're lucky, and everything else is just stay in your apartment at a certain height. So that can be a little bit daunting, I would imagine. However, imagine if the pandemic happened during the winter season, if it was thrown down with rain somewhere in November and December. I think the picture will be slightly different. So we need to look at this with a pinch of salt, I guess, or consider that with a pinch of salt. I don't think that tendency will really take off. And I don't think that public transport will stop its, will not be used as a picture of a lonely woman in a mask. I think this is still, it just needs to be readjusted. I think we need to readjust generally our ways of transportation for the new potential world of all the issues that we're facing. So, and of course our home is a sanctuary, so sanctuary to shut the door on the outside world behind us. And I think that was quite an experience for everybody to find that world inside that door, behind the door. So that also, I would imagine, as Anneli pointed out, has presented quite a few challenges to everybody. So it's interesting. I've got, how can I shift those images that are to the right, obscuring the screen? Sorry. Anyway, doesn't matter. So basically, as a company, we actually ended up being slightly ahead of the game. Like before the pandemic, everybody had been set up for work from home. Everybody got access to good media to communicate with each other. And that actually paid off for a lot of us quite a bit. Also, somehow, we've been looking at a variety of positive things, from placemaking to new portfolio design. And here are just some of the drivers that led to the new portfolio. Say, brief from our customers who wanted actually contemporary, crisp, clear, clean spaces, functional, have golden moments with the family, but then shut the door on the family, quiet, light, with space for storage. So all of those issues, from quality to sense of arrival, to room sizes and home size, space, light, flow, storage, kitchen style, removed from the kitchen, and all sorts of other technical and functional issues, including brand consistency. Because I think at the moment, Taylor Wimpey is desperately trying to step one step further away from every other house builder. That is why I asked the question, who were these guys who did that layout prior to that? So those are the things that were driving the new typology, the new portfolio, the new thinking about our new homes up to date. Sorry. done something silly. Yes. So as you can see, the more standard types at the bottom there, completely compartmentalized, with lots of spaces that are not really functioning or acting well for anybody. Basically, quite a lot of waste of space, I'd say. Very squatty, unappealing entrances, nothing flows, etc. So the kind of the desire was to create houses with open plan, with spatial flow, with sort of taking as much light and air in. Use every possible single space. You can see there's like even a little desk there, a space for working, even in the open plan, etc., etc. So people could choose what they prefer, what kind of flow they prefer, etc. That was the sort of work that is still ongoing. We're still sort of researching what are the best homes for our customers, and we'll be looking at it, I guess, continuously, just developing the good DNA every step of the way. We're also quite concerned, back to climate emergency, obviously with all sorts of environmental issues, with buildings considered to be one of the worst emitters of CO2. And pandemic, I think, has presented us with quite a different challenge, because all of a sudden the airtight buildings were quite a danger for spreading bacteria and airborne bacteria, etc. So all of a sudden, there's a great need to have as much outdoor air coming in as possible. So how does the building affect our health? My health, the acoustics, the lighting, the chemicals in the furniture I'm sitting on, all of a sudden, spending 24 hours in the house, you find all those issues coming to the forefront. All of a sudden, flexible living becomes more of a desire, as in an opportunity to change your layout, to get space to lock yourself in, to separate workplace from office, to access outdoor space, wherever that outdoor space can be. How can you achieve good ventilation and bigger rooms and healthy materials? And we need to increase the amount of air that's coming in to dilute airborne contaminants, be it bacteria, be it coronavirus, be it any pollutants that come from any materials. But of course, I was quite impressed with that privacy threshold and front garden story, because throughout my own pandemic here, my neighbours were the only guys I was talking to, and I noticed absolutely the front garden, the privacy threshold between the public and the private became one of the most important hotspots for people to communicate with each other. And I think my neighbours were the only guys I talked to face anyway. So that is something that has to get quite a new meaning. Front gardens have to be considered from that point of view as well. Luckily or otherwise, I think tomorrow is the launch of a building for healthy life, which is one of the quality benchmarks that will help us to look at places and help to achieve healthy places. And generally, the word healthy comes through in every possible aspect, and certainly homes as well. I think healthy homes is very, very important in light of what's happening at the moment, in light of the climate, in light of the pandemic, etc. Very much hope that one way or another we'll deal with those qualities shown at the bottom of the page. And I think Anneliek will be happy to see her scheme up there as well, as certainly one of the most positive examples in the country at this point in time. So the guide is basically talking about all the best practice placemaking principles that we taught continuously, from integrated neighbourhoods to distinctive places to streets for all, and all of those things mentioned in Building for Life 12 were the foundation for creating that healthy lifestyle, Building for Healthy Life publication. And hopefully it'll continue its iterations, and with everyone's input, we'll get to that quality, which is also ultimately, I think, the point of today's discussion, that it's quality design and quality placemaking that will take us to all the design we're looking at the moment in that pandemic world. just a few images of what can we do with things such as the menace, the legacy of the car. I don't think we'll ever be able to completely get rid of it. Unfortunately, I personally think that remote places and private house ownership have got to do a lot to do with it. It's all very well to do sort of social schemes, but when it comes to private housing, there is that, from my personal observation and experience, the obsession with private house ownership leads to the fact that people change jobs more often than they change houses, and often end up commuting long distances. Myself, point in question, I have to commute all around the country in my position, so it will be almost impossible not to use a car in certain situations, because not everywhere is provided with quality public transport. However, there's a solution right next door to where I live. There's a little granny annex conversion of a garage with some patio garden to the front, which actually looks very green and very nice and very welcoming. So that's a good way of changing the private the parking space into something a little bit more delightful. And I'm thinking perhaps this is one of the options we can offer the customers: garages that can be either offices or granny annexes or whatever possibly it can be. At Barrett's, when I worked at Barrett's, that used to be like a luxury option. I think potentially we can think about making it an option for every individual house. And just as a kind of tactical urbanism, at the bottom page, there's a parking square that's turned into a fairground. So there's ways of dealing with all those sort of issues of the need to accommodate the car. Talking about densities, well, actually, as a company at the moment, as I mentioned,
Irina, sorry? Kind of
time.
Come to a close soon, because we have one more speaker.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so densities, absolutely. Efficient use of place. Houses will be bigger once attached, rather than that pixie detached boxes. That they'll create more attractive spaces and places and enclose spaces better. Think about more creative typologies. Think about tactical urbanism, or how places can be flexible enough to serve houses around them as the situation changes. Think about multi-use spaces around the houses, because people consistently think of green spaces during that pandemic, or the survey of mental mapping has shown just that. So flexibility, fresh air, touch-free technology, I haven't mentioned yet, materials, fresh air, ventilation, access to outdoors, wherever they are, intensification. And intensification is the only thing that can help us deliver the kind of walkable and cyclable neighbourhoods. Offices, annexes, an absolute must. Looking how to work from home, return to live work units, multifunctional spaces, and focus on immediate neighbourhoods. Sorry, I just rushed it through, sorry.
I'm sure we will come back to all of those in the discussions. Thank you very much.